what is the standard going to be? Because I have my standard, you have yours. We have all these unspoken expectations, and we were starting to get frustrated. What we had was a lot of expectations, but not a lot of agreements.
It's when you don't have that common ground, and where we say, this is the vision, this is the thing that we're building, and therefore every decision that we make has got to either contributes to that or it takes away from that, right?
Ooh, say that again. I love our kids. I love all of our kids. I love what we're building in the business, but let me not be foolish and think like I did this in my own strength. Neither one of us did this in our own strength. It literally took us both being completely broken down, stripped down, and naked, saying, God, we are not doing this alone. Otherwise, we'd still be here with boxing gloves trying to punch each other out. Like, we are in the ring together, and we have been knocking out generational giants, right? Like, we have been knocking down the things that have tried to separate us, distract us, pit us against each other. We had to get on the same team, put the gloves, and start fighting for something different, something new for the future of all of our children. Welcome back to the show. Today, I am joined by my husband, Mark, and we are going to be talking to those of you who are blending families, merging businesses, and asking yourself, how do we get on the same page when we're coming from such different backgrounds? Maybe you've been feeling the friction, arguing about things, playing tug of war, trying to find some common ground or some compromise. Today's podcast is going to give you practical, tactical tools, conversations, and exercises to bring you guys together so that you can lead your family, your business, your children from a unified front. So stick around, make sure you subscribe to this channel and tune in to the conversation. Let's dive in. Hello, welcome back. It is Christine, and it has been a minute since Mark was in the house.
Whoop, whoop. It has been a minute, but I'm back.
He's back. This is our family thread. Come on, whoop, whoop. All right. Last week, I had Christiane on here, my daughter. We shared her testimony. It was awesome. Mark and I have been working on something behind the scenes. We've been rolling out a new challenge, new coaching program. And so today I thought it would be fitting that we would get back on here today, talk about some of the challenges of blended family, running businesses together. So we're going to do something different. Mark is going to interview me today, so I have no idea what he's going to ask me. I'm sure some raw, real stuff will come out too. So this is for those of you who are wanting to learn how to partner better together, learn how to parent better together, get on the same page. And a lot of people who reach out to us are actually also working with their spouses in some capacity or want to work better together. And so I hope that today's episode will offer some value, some insight, and give you guys not only a great perspective shift, but some tactical steps that you can take. Let's jump in.
Let's go. Are you ready?
Yeah, let's just talk to each other.
Talking about parenting.
I have no idea what you're
parenting in a blended household as a business leader. It is a specific topic because
it's hyper specific.
We do get a lot of people coming through into our network, through the funnel, into the programs that are leading blended households. By the numbers, you're probably looking at least 50, 60% of households these days are either single parent or blended family. So chances are that's a lot of you. Even if you're not, probably some good stuff in here for you.
Probably some. Okay. And I think that also you go through different seasons of parenting. I don't think. I know. You go through different seasons of parenting. And as you evolve and you grow, your relationship with your kids does as well, and the way you parent.
Yeah. Changes. Okay. Easily one of the most challenging things that you're ever going to do. True or false?
True.
Okay. Why?
What's that? Parenting or parenting a blended family?
Yeah, parenting a blended family.
Okay, let's talk about business. Mergers and acquisitions.
That's what it is.
It's mergers and acquisitions.
Let's put it in business context because it's a merger of two businesses. Even if it's two families, you're merging finances, you're merging the corporate space, which is the household, and you're merging two completely different cultures. In our case, one from a completely different country, or from two completely different countries coming together in one new space.
Well, you answered the question.
There you go. So true, it is. It is okay. And so
it is true. And I just want to tap into that. I think it sounds all great. We're going to grow. We're going to multiply. We'll get bigger. We'll get better. It's going to be amazing. And it is. And also we have to recognize we are coming in with a cultural set. We have relational dynamics of how we already operate, how we talk to each other. We have a language. We got our language over here. We got our rules, our guidelines. This is our playbook for how we do life and how we parent and discipline or don't discipline, right? And so this is really important because we have a unique dynamic coming in. We have a preset blueprint as well as a list of values that are either spoken or not spoken that we've been operating from. And so often what we have coming in is we have a war between these two cultures. We have a war between these two playbooks. We have a war between like my way versus your way. And that never works. I want to just say that because one of the things we hear a lot, not just in blended families, is like, what's the compromise? How do we meet in the middle? How do we meet in the middle? What's the compromise? Or you see somebody just coming in and be like, bulldoze. It's going to be my way or the highway.
Yeah.
And that is a challenge.
Yeah. It certainly is. So let's dive into that. What for you in the merging of our two cultures has been the most challenging?
Well, I think that we talk a lot about expectations and agreements. I think that there's just a lot of uncommunicated expectations. You assume, right? You assume, of course, this is how we're going to run our household. Okay. So for me, it's always going to come back to order, structure and order. I like things organized. I like things clean. I like to have some structure around. And again, I'm not saying I was hyper clean and organized and structured in the past, but I had certain ways of doing things, and then when we came together, anytime you bring people together, there's going to be a chaos. Chaos precedes order, right? Storming and forming. We got to storm a little bit to form, right? And so I think that you have these expectations. I had expectations that days were going to look a certain way, evenings are going to look a certain way, the house is going to be maintained a certain way, right? And then it's like, oh, wait a second. It's not that way, right? And then we started bumping heads a little bit, or a lot sometimes. We started bumping heads a lot about what is the standard going to be? Because I have my standard, you have yours. We have all these unspoken expectations, and we were starting to get frustrated. What we had was a lot of expectations, but not a lot of agreements, right? And so the biggest thing for me was that was a big moment where I realized, okay, we're going to need to have a whole new set of not just expectations, but what definitions?
Yeah.
What do we want our house to stand for? What do we want it to feel like in our house? What's important to both of us that we're going to build a standard around, and then, implement that in our house. And it takes work. It takes time. It's not perfect.
Well, let's keep going with that thread because that's really important for people to understand, at least as it pertains to my opinion. And I think the thing that we now agree upon. What I think most people think about when there is some sort of a merger or acquisition, by the way, those are two different things. Okay. And so if I were acquiring you as my wife and
you would dominate
and you were to enter my household, right?
Yeah.
Then by definition, you and your team would play by my rules.
Correct.
That is how acquisition works because you're now wearing the new label, the new logo, the new branding, et cetera, and you got acquired. You didn't merge.
This is not what marriage is.
Okay, that is not what marriage is. When you decide to live your life together with someone and go down that pathway together, it's a merging of cultures. And so what that means is we're hopefully taking the best parts of both cultures and making that into the new culture. And by the way, if I'm no longer talking just about families, you can do this inside your business because almost all of us will go through some sort of merger or acquisition experience if you're going to be in business over the course of your career. But taking it back to the marriage side, I think one thing that was really important that you just alluded to, and I'm just trying to nail it down with clearer language, is that we had to get clear on what we're going to be. What was the prevailing culture? What was the new culture? Not what were the things that we were trying to preserve from the past and this family tradition, that family tradition. And we have some of those, right? I mean, it's not that we don't have some of those. We certainly do. But there had to be a prevailing governing reason that we come back to, a common ground that we have both agreed upon so that when we get into the arguments, by the way, these have been our best
call this
arguments.
the North Star.
These have been our best arguments, have been around the unmet expectations because we didn't have this specific agreement in place. And once we got that specific agreement in place, at least now there's something that we come back to, like the Constitution, to help us decide whether or not, like,
governing rules.
Okay,
but
that's what it is.
Last weekend we did a VIP weekend with a couple. We took them out to the Smoky Mountains. It was awesome. We got to hang out with them for 3 days, work on the marriage. And one of the things, this reminds me of a conversation we had with them when originally they were like, how do we compromise? You know, how do we meet in the middle? And she was very much on one side. He was very much on another side.
Yeah.
You could feel the resistance. And this wasn't the first time they'd been to an event. And I love the fact, that we got to work with them one-on-one for a bit, but I invited them into shifting that language. And I think that's really important, is that there is no compromise. There's no sides. There is no win-lose. It is really a psychology and a decision that it's going to be a win-win, and it's going to be the new thing. We're creating something new. We're building something new. It's version 2.0, right? We're not going back to the way things were. We are creating something new. It's version 2.0 of our marriage, version 2.0 of our parenting. This new season requires this. And our language with them was, what is the common ground that we're going to keep meeting on, right? That we're going to go and we're going to hold hands and we're going to say, like, this is the thing that's going to anchor us. This is the common ground.
Yep.
And so this takes time, right? Because it feels very much like, no, I'm over here and you're over there. And now we're fighting about who's losing ground or who's gaining ground, instead of saying, hey, let's go over here.
Right.
And start in a new place, build on a new foundation. And again, it doesn't mean we can't bring elements from the past in. You brought a lot of, we both brought in, we're awesome people. So of course we brought in awesome things. And also a lot of things had to get stripped away because they were good for the last season, but they weren't good for where God was calling us.
Yep.
Right? Like, they got us through the last season, and I just want to say this too.
Yeah.
I mean, whether you've been divorced or not, certainly we both had this going on. Like, and I see this in parents all the time. I'm thinking of another couple I'm coaching that are divorcing now in their second marriage and are having some of these initial points of friction, right? Like, we need more discipline. We don't have enough discipline. We should spend money here. We shouldn't give them the kids money for that. Like, all of that stuff is as you get separated and you have this, you went from having your kids full time to all of a sudden you have them half the time or less. There's this guilt that, like, okay, I have to overcompromise. Like, I want to be the fun house. I want to be the parent that my kids talk to. I want to be the place that they can relax. Like, we have all this guilt, quite honestly, around the divorce. We carry all this grief because now we're separated from them. They're separated from us. We can feel that. And so we let a lot of things go in the name of wanting that connection. But it's actually stuff that's going to cost in the long run, right? Because we don't have the discipline. Often we lack structure. We get really loose. And so, there's a little bit of recalibrating. So what worked for that last season when I didn't see the kids as much, and, some of that was based just like, hey, we needed to get through that. We needed to create massive connection. There was healing, there was rebuilding. And as we do it, it's like, okay, now we're moving into a new season. We need to create some different type of stability and some structure so that the whole unit can thrive. Like, this isn't now just about the, feeling bad and trying to make everybody feel better. This is actually about, do we create a system and a place? We say this all the time about the business, within which our people can thrive, which they can be healthy. Like, meaning they sleep, they eat well.
I want to respond to that just a little bit, because I have often felt over the course of the last 4 years, specifically of the 7 going on 8 that we've been together, I often felt like I was having to give up something, like there was something being stripped away. And in many cases, I mean, what maybe it was certain traditions or things that we would do specifically, like around Christmas, you had yours, we had ours, right? Or the way that things were kept or the places that were kept. And I'm like, why are things always moving? It just goes here. Why can't it just be there? Why can't
the cabinets just stay open all the time?
Yeah, right. Things like that, like simple stuff that made my life, like I just leave it.
Why do we
I
need to
remember
keep all
exactly
our
where I put it
cabinets
last time. Why does it have to have a spot to go in? Like, why can't I just go back to where I left the damn thing and just leave it where it goes. Anyway, but we would go, but it was also a lot of stuff around like, kids and parenting and expectations and how we're going to run the day and how noises in the household. I had a much noisier, robust bunch of Viking savages, and that was kind of the culture that we kept.
I did not say that he had savages.
Yeah, well, you didn't have to. You didn't have to. So anyway,
it was a more rambunctious crew.
Absolutely,
okay. and younger crew.
Yeah, and younger. So my point is that we. As we were going through that, it was when it felt hard to me to get to the point that we're at now, where we can have this conversation and actually teach from a place of integrity around this message. Yeah. And I'm specifically just speaking to those people who are going through that, because when you don't have that common ground and where we say, this is the vision, this is the thing that we're building, and therefore every decision that we make has got to either contributes to that or it takes away from that, right?
Ooh, so say that again.
Every decision that we make either contributes to the common vision, to what we're building, or it distracts from it or takes away from it, right? And we get it wrong sometimes. So we're not coming at this from a place of perfection, but this is the practice. So we have that place that we're trying to get. So decisions have to support us moving in that direction. Once that, for me, became the thing that we were doing together, it was easier to let go of some of the things that no longer served that. Or to discipline the kids in a way that supported that.
Once we had the clear vision, or you felt like we really had partnership around it?
Yes, both of those things. But certainly having the vision, like, yep, this is what we're creating, and that's not, and it morphs and changes. But we know that we're building a future, we're building a legacy, and it requires certain things, that we get to have both, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. So that. As you were talking about, the experience with the client that we had on the VIP retreat, anytime that you don't have that common ground, vision, and somebody has to, and now we have to agree to compromise. What compromise usually means is somebody's giving up what they want,
their way versus someone else's,
or agreeing to do something in a way they don't want to do it, which means somebody has to lose or feel like they lost. Right. And I know we both have probably felt this way, that we were losing something until we got that thing locked down. And now it's not always comfortable, right? We still have old tendencies. We still have those old, pieces from the past that will always, want to come out. But now at least for me, when I catch myself and say, okay, yep, that thing that does not support where we're going, right? Correct that behavior, go back, and you don't have to fight about it.
Yeah, I think it's important to remember, okay, y'all, fighting is actually a healthy part of relationship. Disagreement is healthy if we can have dialogue. A little bit of heat in the kitchen is not a bad thing. And I think so many people are terrified of each other, and stuff bottles up and it bottles up until and you're brooding this resentment instead of just, okay, friction is a way for us to recognize something's off. We got to get in alignment. So I echo everything you said. I think every time we experience that, it was a chance for us to get back to, and obviously we do this for a living. This is what we do. We do leadership training for a living. We have conversations all day long on vision and alignment and getting on the same team and buy-in. And it's still we still have to do the work and remind ourselves, hold on a second, time out. What's the name of the game we're playing, right? Because if we're fighting each other, we're playing the wrong game, because now we're on opposite teams. So having the ability to pump the brakes, and sometimes it's me and sometimes it's you, but one of us has to be willing to call time out, pump the brakes, and go, hold on a second, we need to get some perspective. We are fighting over the wrong thing. We're fighting each other. We're playing the wrong game. The rules are bad because we both feel like we're losing. And so let's redirect and get clear, what's the name of the game we're playing? How are we going to play together? What are we building? And what does it look like when we get rallied around that? What does it look like? And these are the conversations that are essential. And I said it to a group of guys earlier on a coaching call. If it's not on a page, we're not on the same page. We need to have this conversation. It's not a one and done. It's a living conversation. And, anytime we say, okay, we're going to start building together, you're going to have challenges in the building process. Anytime you start a construction project, there's delays. There's things that don't show up on time. And so, it's not about all smooth sailing. It's that we start to get clear on what we're building. We start to put the plans together, and along the way, we have to pump the brakes and
For sure.
go back and revisit it. Okay, here's a question I got. Like, whose responsibility is it to set the vision? Is it the man's responsibility to bring the vision? Because I see a lot of men, you guys, a lot of you are waiting for your wife to lead the vision.
Yeah.
And this is a common thing that I've seen is, men and women, we got our thing too, right? We can get controlling. And obviously I work with a certain type of individuals, but where there is no vision, the people perish, right? And we can make our plans. The Lord establishes our steps. We know that. It sounds great. Living it is a different thing. But what I see is this place where there's a lot of vision, a lot of direction, a lot of plans, targets, all that is locked in at work. And then we go home and it's like, okay, I'm going to abdicate over to her. There goes a pen. And now she makes the vision. She makes the plan. She sets the direction. And the guy's just sort of like along for the ride, abdicating, walking on eggshells. And so the question is, whose responsibility is it to set the vision? What say ye?
Well, let's make sure that we are fully differentiated in listeners' minds, the difference between vision and planning.
Yes.
Right? The vision
and also,
the plan.
I don't know how this relates to blended family, but I think this relates to every family.
Yeah.
Because your household is a business and it's a territory. And I believe it's the first place God's calling you to lead. You are supposed to be the head of the household.
Well, answered your own question, didn't you?
But I want to know what that looks like lived out. What is that? Okay, but what if someone says, okay, she won't let me be the head of the household? What does that even mean?
Oh, interesting.
Head of the household.
Yeah, well, I think, no, I don't think. So here's what I know. I know that it can often be challenging probably the most challenging place that most men have to lead is in their relationship at home. In leading their wife.
Because?
Specifically if they have not been consistent in doing so historically. That's my big lesson after more than 20 years of being married to two different women.
Not at the same time.
Not at the same time, right? Not at the same time.
We're not into that, okay?
Thank God. Yeah, that's it. If that's the struggle, if she's fighting you on every step of the way, as you try to suggest things that would be good for the family, things that you want to do, whether even if it's like where you want to go for date night or where you want to go for where you want to go on family vacation, or how you want to invest your resources, or whatever the case may be. If she's fighting you all along the way, somewhere in your past together, you have lacked intention. Okay, to one of the core pillars of the three-legged stool that defines intention. What I mean by that is intentional leadership. One of the legs that holds the three-legged stool up is that it's deliberate. And so to be intentional, you have to be deliberate, which means you have to do it, which means you make up your mind that you're going to do it, and then you do it on purpose. And at some point in the past, you have lacked intention in your leadership as the head of your household, and you were not consistent, and you broke trust.
Okay,
you degraded
your
trust. Let's unpack it. But the trust got degraded in you as a leader, and when that happens, when your consistency becomes inconsistent, let's just make it simple. When your consistency becomes inconsistent, then you create a world within which she feels less safe, and she's going to fight you.
Yeah. Okay. Here's what I know from our own marriage, and also from working with many couples, is if you're always going to her, what do you want to do? What should we do with the business? What should we do with the kids? Where do you want to move to? Where do you want to buy? What do you think we should invest in next? You're asking her to take the helm of the ship and guide the whole ship. Now, there's a difference between a rudder and someone that's at the top. So a woman has a lot of influence and a lot of life to speak into it. But when she's the one that has to hold the ship steady all the time, and the waves are tossing and she's trying to read the room and read the atmosphere and she's got to do that. That is really exhausting. I fundamentally do not believe that is God's design for a female body. You know, again, I always go back to the origin. Eve was in the garden, right? There was already vision for what the garden was, what the purpose of it was, what their work together was going to be. Adam had already received the mandate. He knew the direction. He knew the vision. He knew the job. And God gives him Eve as a partner, a perfect partner to partner with him in executing the vision, the plans, the purposes. And he blessed them and he commanded them to multiply. So to me, it's like, okay, I'm very visionary. I have a gift of, vision and sight. I talk about that a lot. And I speak a lot of life into the vision that we have. But it is exhausting for a woman to be constantly asked, what do you see? What do you see? What do you think we should do? And be the guidance of that versus, you being able to come and bring vision to the table and then ask me to speak life into it. So I wanted to talk about that because this is something, even as I have men reaching out, I'm just going to address this right out the gate because I have a lot of men who reach out, book calls, right? Because we have this rapid implementation challenge now. I've been doing executive coaching for years, and we've started recently a 4-month rapid implementation challenge to help you lead with greater clarity, certainty, and capacity at home to establish greater connection, rebuild trust, all those things. And often what happens is when I get on the call, there's a little bit of hesitation sometimes with these men of, I don't have time, or maybe it's a financial thing and it's an excuse. And I'm like, is it true that you don't have time, or are you just afraid to talk to your wife about this?
What's their answer?
It's number 2. I don't know how to bring it up to her so that she'll invest this level of whatever it is, money, time, resources, whatever. I don't know how to bring it up to her. I was having a call with a client today, same thing. Talked about an investment he made. And he's like, the minute I made it, I was just like sweating because I'm like, how am I going to tell her? Like, what is she going to do? So there's this fear around how am I going to pitch the thing to her? Now, there's a time and a place in how we make decisions together, right? So if you go out and you spend a ton of money, you buy the house. I mean, it reminds me of my old friend Rebecca and Andy. Like, he came home and told her, I bought a cottage, and then one day he came home, I bought a sailboat and I bought a truck. And that's not dual partnership and decision making. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but that's a different thing. It's different than setting vision and saying, here's what's on my heart. Here's what I want to create for our family. Here's what I'm committed to building. Would you partner with me in this? Would you invite me in this? And that's really, I'm just going to give you guys this because so often this is the thing when I'm having that conversation and I could sense like they want to lead better at home. They're trying to figure out how to, shape a vision, let alone communicate that vision to her. The gap is they don't know how. And so often what you're doing is you're going to her to ask for permission, or going to her to ask for her to set the vision or her to make the decisions, instead of you get it clear on the vision. What do you want for the marriage? What do you see for the future with the children? What do you want to establish as the leader of your household? Get clear on that and then come to her and say, hey, babe, I love you. I'm excited about our future. Here's what I desire for us. Here's what I see for us. Here's the stuff that I'm passionate about. I want to build. I want to create. I want to do it with you. Are you willing? Are you willing to trust me in this? Are you willing to partner with this? What do you have to add? And now the invitation that you bring to a woman to partner is that, he's bringing me along into partnership. I get to be part of the great adventure, and I have things to add. I have things to contribute. Great. I have purpose, and I breathe life into it. And the woman is the multiplier. So she comes and now she's breathing life into it, and she's coming up with ideas, and she's excited. You know why? Because there's structure. There's a boundary around the garden, right? So she's invited into a place that already has structure, and now you're going, hey, will you make that house a home? Here's the house. Here's the thing. Now fill it. Fill it with the things that you love. But when the woman has to build the ark, envision it, put the architecture together, put the plans, put the construction, then try to fill it, she's not going to have anything left. She's not going to have anything left to you. And so and I believe that is the design that God has for us as marriage. It's like, he brings a structure, she fills it.
Mhm.
You know, he is, you lead with vision, she comes alongside, and the vision starts to, she's a multiplier of the vision.
Yeah, for sure.
She's a multiplier of that. And every woman that I've ever worked with and coached as well
Yep.
wants to be part of something. And a lot of what has broken marriages apart is like, okay, we've been following his dreams, his vision, his idea, his goals, but I was never invited
Mhm.
to participate, to be part of
Yep.
it, to breathe life of it. And this doesn't mean you have to work together, but this is what I love about us being able to work together, because for my entire life, I've always wanted to build something epic with my husband.
Mhm.
I've always imagined whether we would be speaking together, we're podcasting together, we're authoring books together, we're hosting events, we're getting our sailing certifications and taking the kids sailing. Like, I always had that desire. I believe that's a God-given desire. And so I actually love working together. We have different lanes. We're not fighting over the same thing, but it's very life-giving to do business together.
True.
And to parent together because of that.
Yeah.
It's that partnership.
Yep.
So I think as I wrap that, I'm going to wrap that up and then hand it to you, is that, like, as a woman, I'm looking at him going, okay, hold on a second. Does he have any idea where he's going? Like, where are you going? Do you know how to get there? Can I trust you?
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have to have all the answers, but that's what she's asking.
Yep.
Hey, I want to let you know about a live masterclass I'm hosting soon called Reclaiming the Territory of Your Marriage. I'm going to be sharing the 3 keys to help you rebuild connection with your spouse, restore trust, and lead with greater certainty at home. So click on the link, get registered. This is an exclusive event for a limited time. It is powerful and you do not want to miss it. You're going to walk away with actionable steps and clear strategies that you can apply this week. Click on the link, get registered, and I'll see you on the other side.
As you're talking, I'm thinking about my parents' relationship. They were married 53 years before my dad passed, and my dad, full of structure and vision, for that matter.
Didn't invite her into
He
it?
did not invite her. She was there, and they worked together in every venture that they ever had.
It was an acquisition.
He definitely treated it much more like acquisition, you know. But that was that generation, right? The people who were born in the 30s and 40s thought that way, led their houses that way, you know. And man, I mean, they stayed together. I mean, they were married. I'm not sure how happily they were that entire time. Now, you know, knowing what I now know, you know, post, you know, his departure from the planet. Man, but even though he may have gotten a lot of that wrong, you look at the fruit now, and I mean, you have a family that is actually still very united. Mm-hmm. It's little Beckett's birthday today. She's one of my great nieces, and you know, she's 6 or 7 years old, I suppose. And you know, the family Snapchat is blowing up with happy birthday, Beckett. In, you know, 2 weeks, it'll be my birthday, and it'll be happy birthday, Mark. And that happens every time that there's a birthday, or, you know, one of the little grandkids is having surgery on Friday or tomorrow. And, you know, there's prayers and well wishes and all that stuff around that. And so we do have a close knit family as a result of that structure that was there, because of that vision that he had cast and everything. Could have done a better job.
But was it really a multiplier? Because did it have her life? Did it have her nurturing? Did it have her truth?
You know, in certain components, absolutely, yeah. Right? There are certain things that mom absolutely made better, where she was able to pour into. But I don't know how much she was invited into the vision, right? You know, invited into, you know, and to add her flair, her nurturing, her, you know, some of those pieces. So interesting little side quest that I'm taking in my mind as you're talking through that, but still really important. I want to bring it back to a point as we bring it in for a landing. One of my favorite things to do now when I have an idea, and I have a lot of them. Christine has a lot of ideas too, and we have ideas together.
We're both very visionary.
We're both very visionary. We're both very creative. So, this requires, guys, you get to set your ego down for a second, but I'll bring my idea or bring the pitch. And so one of the things
pitch.
I do, I'll go like, so we know what part of that vision for us is the acquisition of a decent sized piece of land where we're going to build this out as both a family compound and retreat center and community center, gardens, all kinds of, there's lots of details that could go in there. But one of my favorite things to do, and I do this often now, is I just look at places that are ridiculously beyond what we could possibly afford right now. Right? I mean, I'm talking like $15-20 million properties that are well beyond the current budget.
In Italy, in Tuscany, that need to be renovated.
If you want to sponsor the podcast and come along board with us, like, well, here's my Venmo. It's the Mark Jewell. All right, send it over. But
fund the castle.
And most of these things are not, like, I'm not serious about moving there. I'm not serious about, but I am serious about expanding the vision and saying, well, what if a part of this was possible? What ideas can we take from this? And the Lord will place us on the perfect property at the perfect time in the perfect order with in it, and everything's going to fall into place. I 100% believe that. But that's where I'm just like trying to inspire Christine a little bit with that vision. Right. And I'm consistent with that. And I'm very intentional with that. So that's one of my favorite things to do, but also just setting my ego aside and say, like, hey, I'm working on this project right now with the business. I'm working on this, I don't know, maybe it's a piece of writing, or maybe it's the website or a sales page or something for whatever. And like, my creativity only in my detail orientation only takes it so far. Here, I give you the structure. Can you make this look good?
Yeah.
Right? And you do a great job
Fill
of
it,
that.
amplify
Fill
it,
it,
make
amplify
it beautiful.
So it's not always like big vision stuff, right?
things.
Like, enroll her in little activities. You can just be in the practice of that, and she's gonna, maybe gonna push back, or I think you should do this differently, and you're gonna think that's not gonna work, but let her do it, and then just see where it goes and see how it amplifies and see how it multiplies. So that's my recommendation, as I think about how to make that bit that we've been talking about a bit more practical and tactical. Now, we started out
I still have two things I want to touch on before we wrap. So
okay, but I do want to bring it back to a point, because we started off this whole thing on how do you parenting
in a blended family,
in a blended family, right? And so this last piece was not a rabbit hole, though, because that vision for us is really important. Because if you're gonna, I don't care what you're gonna parent or what you're gonna merge together, whether it's a business or whether it's a family, the vision that you're casting has got to be big enough to fit everyone else inside of it. Your wife, your kids, their wives and kids, and husbands and kids, right? You need to be thinking down the road, especially most of the people, I'm guessing, listening to this are probably middle-aged. So you need to be thinking about the next 20, 30 years. What are you preparing? What vision are you casting as you prepare for the grandchildren from all these kids?
And I think I know what has really worked for us, and I believe that this is God's design, according to the word, because we're called to be one mind, one body, one flesh, one spirit, one. Unity. God's design for marriage is unity. And especially in a blended family is, there's pain from the past. You've been burned financially, relationally, business-wise, whatever. And so there's even more of a tendency to keep things separate. Like, I'm going to have my finances, you're going to have yours. I'm going to have my thing with my kids, you're going to have your thing with your kids. And maybe even have like separate vacations. Like, I see this, right? Well, we're going to have our vacation, then we're going to have this. And we don't realize it because we think that we're protecting the peace and we're making sure that everything is clean. But what we're really doing is inviting a spirit of division and competition and comparison back in. And one of them, we were challenged and invited to bring all of our finance together, because we had our joint finances, but we still had, for a brief moment in time, separate finances and separate businesses and things. And when God said to us, the word of the year is supernatural unity, he's like, all of it, like, bring the finances together. One unit, right? One storehouse of the kingdom. It's not multiple things. It doesn't mean we don't have different bank accounts for different things and investment accounts and business accounts, but that there is full, like, what's mine is yours, what's yours is mine. It's ours. It belongs to God ultimately. So it really isn't any of us. So there was no hiding. There was no imbalance. And that was so key. And I hear this a lot. It's like, how do we balance? How do we balance the kids? How do we balance finances? I'm like, you don't balance. There's no such thing as balance, because a balance automatically implies one thing's over here, another thing's over here.
Yeah.
And I'm already, if it's constantly in comparison, right? Instead of one, there's one storehouse. So financially, the couples that I work with that are struggling, a lot of the struggles around money too. And the vision is that they're afraid of repeating what happened in the past, instead of getting clear on what they want to build financially together in the future, because two is better than one. And we know that biblically, right? Because if one falls, the other can pick them up. A cord of 3 strands is not easily broken. So if the two of us get together and we put God in the center, we say, God, we're going to apply our financials, like our financial system is going to be your economic system, which is what we did, right? And so that helped us make parenting decisions, financial decisions for our kids. Who's going to get a car? How much money are we going to give kids? Like, what are we going to pay for? It all stemmed from us coming to unity and saying, okay, we're going to get ourselves together. But in order for us to truly have unity, we need to follow God's system for this. It's not Mark's system or Christine's system. It's the system. We're going to submit to that.
Yeah.
That was from the financial piece. Also from a parenting perspective, I'm going to talk something super simple, like vacations. We decided early on, like, we're going to be one unit. We're going to be one family. These are all going to be our kids. We never say like your kids.
Yep.
Rarely, if I think I may have said it a couple times and you corrected me right away. It's like, no, they're our kids. It's our family. We go on family trips. And as much as possible, we try to have all the kids there. Now, Bailey's moved back to Canada and is 25 and
as
has
they become adult kids
life.
and have their own families, it's going to be different.
But we've really made an effort, a concentrated effort and intention to consistently, it's family dinners with everyone together. It's family vacations. Everyone's together. We're going sailing in Greece. Everyone's together. And we have merged the families, not by force or anything. We still have one-on-one time. I'm a big believer in one-on-one time, and you're going to have a unique individual relationship with every child. But we really decided we are going to be one.
Yep.
And I know that it's impossible to have the harmony, the unity, the connection, the success that we want if we're still playing this separationist view inside of our marriage.
Yep.
And so, that's at the end of the day, that's our core message, whether it's business or at home, is unification is the key to multiplication.
I'm gonna tack one extra little piece onto that, and I wholeheartedly believe everything that you said, and I agree with everything that you said, especially coming around like winding it all together with God in the middle and the 3-chord strand. That is my vision for us all the time. I'm so grateful for it. Wasn't comfortable how we got there, but we did. And
well, we played a lot of tug of war.
We did play a lot. We didn't just step into this 7 or 8 years ago, you guys, and like it was all good. I was freshly divorced. Yeah. You'd been divorced for about a decade before we met, but had other relationships. There's a lot of baggage and things that you're working through.
Tried to have other relationships with the separatist view, and that does not work.
Yeah. So I want to bring in one more thing. Now, the world, I think, is going to tell you about co-parenting, because if you've got kids, then that means you're divorced and you're a blended family now. Then that means, in all likelihood, there's another parent involved in there somewhere, and that's something that we obviously cross into, maybe more so with the 3 that I brought into the equation because they're younger. And there's a lot of back and forth. There's a 50-50, household relationship and, sharing of time and all those things. And so that's been, easily one of the more challenging things, because they have a different culture at their mom's house than they do at our house. Right. And so you have to recalibrate to the new culture every time that they come back. And that is the nature of kids. They're going to have a different energy over there. And you may be okay with it. You may not.
Mental program culture, all of it.
All the things. Now, here's one thing our kids consistently say is that it's so much easier to breathe and relax when we come to your house. And that is not an accident.
Yeah.
That is by design. And this is going to sound harsh. My ex-wife has nothing to do with that. She doesn't get to have any governance in how we do things over here. She doesn't even come in the house. Not that I'm sure that, if she wanted
we don't allow the stuff from outside to come in. We have boundaries around
there are specific boundaries. in the parenting relationship, they're going to call it co-parenting. And I don't agree with co-parenting. That's not a word that I like. I don't. And every once in a while, like it gets thrown in my face, like we're co-parenting. Like, no, what we're doing is parallel parenting. We parent one way over here, and you parent one way over there. It's all in the best interest of the children, I believe. But I'm not adapting my style at my house based on what you do over at your house. If you're still having that conversation with your ex, with your former spouse about how, and people are going to disagree with me on this one, I know, and I also know I'm right.
There are no boundaries because now you're trying to do what you're
still in the marriage.
Spouse. Yes,
with that other, you're still in the marriage with that other person, and you can't be married to two people. Yes, you can, correct. But it's not going to work. So you're going to now you put yourself in this weird place where I'm going to tell Christine one thing right now. I got to go over here and have this other conversation. Torn between the two wives. And you're torn between the two wives, and that is a very uncomfortable place to be. And you're never going to be able to actually be in that like 100%. You're like 98% in that marriage with your now wife or your now husband anytime that you're doing that. And so that was actually something that was pretty easy for me early on to start establishing, but there's still a pull. And I still have to constantly go back that you're always tempted because, you still have to talk. I'm not saying you don't talk to the person. I'm not saying that you don't communicate about what's going on and school schedules and costs and, all the different things that go into it. Yeah, you have to coordinate. And like you have one set of rules.
The emotional stuff and the unity and all of that has to come from here. It's like an umbilical cord. You need to cut the umbilical cord. Yep. And I give you kudos because you have done a great job in the beginning. It was more challenging because you'd bring it home, you'd talk about it, you'd be frustrated. And I remember us having that conversation a couple of times of like, you are inviting her into our space. Now, like that energy is coming into this house and it's affecting our quality time. It's like infecting our atmosphere because now you're all worked up about it. And I'm really glad you brought that up because it is something that I deal with a lot. Also in coaching calls where somebody gets so exasperated about their ex. Why did they do it this way? Why didn't they do it? What are they thinking? How could they introduce someone to the kids so early? Or they allowed them to do this and stay out too late. And it just becomes where you are in this new relationship, this new unity, but you're still constantly talking about your ex. They're still occupying the territory of your mind. They're occupying all of your emotions. They're hijacking your time, your energy, your space. And quite honestly, it's robbing your marriage. Yep. I think like the thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And so I'm not saying your ex is the thief, but you need to understand that all of the energy, all of the mind share, all of that you're still giving over there, you're leaking. You're leaking power, you're leaking unity, you're leaking connection. And I think this is, we're not going to get into it today, but this is a conversation about guarding the gates of your marriage. I did a podcast a couple episodes ago, maybe 5 or 6 episodes ago, and it was about boundaries you need to have in marriage. And your marriage needs a moat. It needs a drawbridge. And you decide what comes in and what comes out of your house, of your culture. And I mean, man, this is a tough one, but this is a game changer if you get it down where we say, look, we're going to honor and respect, and we are the one unit now. We set the vision, we set the standards, we set the culture, and we are going to protect that. And so that also means like we're not going to sit here and talk about our exes all the time.
Yeah. It becomes a very...
Especially with your kids and stuff. And I've done that like in my previous life when I first got divorced. It was like... I was so upset by what my ex was doing and what was happening at his house that I kept allowing it to spill into our home. It's not good for us. It's not good for the kids.
Well, and it's and we weren't great in this, and probably in the first like year or two. And I remember just getting so triggered, hearing about you discuss things with your ex and how they stir us up, right? Yeah. They're exes for a reason. Generally speaking, they're your former for probably a good reason. Okay. I'm going to assume that everybody's doing the best they can and trying to make good choices. But that's the case. And so now you have to learn to deal with it. So good high walls and good boundaries are super, super healthy. And then also being in a practice of also trusting that person, right?
Let go.
That you have to, like, when you go to drop them off and you're dropping them off at their house, or they come and pick up the kids and take them over to their house, go do your life.
Yeah.
Go be married. Go be in your house. Don't sit around and lament that they're not there. I did plenty of it. I did plenty of lamenting and drinking, quite frankly, in the beginning, because it was hard, and I had been a stay-at-home dad for the first 3 years. I got a deep, deep bond, especially with my 2 girls when they were little, and spent a lot of time with them. And and then was like, it's all the stuff that you go through when you're getting divorced, getting accused of this, that, and the other thing, and it's not fair, and you just have to let that go. Like, have your own process. This podcast is not about dealing with all that stuff. You're going to have
dealing
that.
with your ex.
I'm not
Next
saying,
podcast.
Yeah, I'm not saying drop the armor. The book is over here. Go on Amazon, look it up.
Get the book. Drop the armor. We talk all about that in here.
The book will actually help you with
you.
all of that stuff. It's going to help you process.
Release the past.
So
Ignite
I think
your faith and unlock an extraordinary life. The reason we are here today is because of that journey too.
Exactly. I think this has been a good conversation and super valuable for those people that are going through this, especially busy business people who, on top of everything else, have, walked into what's hopefully an amazing second relationship, or becoming one if you got off the rails a little bit. And this is a tool to help you solidify the structure a little bit. Yeah, good stuff.
All right, guys. So to wrap it up, it's a merger and it's not an acquisition. Get on the same page. Remember, it's version 2.0. We're looking forward, not backwards. We're not afraid of repeating the past. We are focused on creating something new together. Get it on paper. Start to breathe life into each other. Decide to have one mind, one flesh. Like, where are we still operating from a separation worldview, right? Pitted against each other. We have got to get unified. Parenting, finances, what we're creating. It's going to test you. It's going to challenge you. It's going to ruffle your feathers. But the word of God says that you are a new creature, right? The old has to die off in order for the new to be made full. And we are a living testimony today. We have an amazing house, an amazing family. I love our kids. I love all of our kids. I love what we're building in the business. But let me not be foolish and think like I did this in my own strength. Neither one of us did this in our own strength. It literally took us both being completely broken down, stripped down, and
naked.
saying, God, we are not doing this alone. Otherwise, we'd still be here with boxing gloves trying to punch each other out. We are in the ring together, and we have been knocking out generational giants, right? Like, we have been knocking down the things that have tried to separate us, distract us, pit us against each other. We had to get on the same team, put the gloves, and start fighting for something different, something new for the future of all of our children. And so I hope that today's podcast was helpful to you, that it spoke life into you, that it ignited some fresh fire. And as always, if this resonates with you, hit comment, make a comment, help the algorithm grow, share this podcast with someone who needs to hear it, and make sure that you are subscribed to this channel, because over 90% of people who listen to podcasts are not even subscribed. Subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the show. So click the subscribe button, comment below if you have that capacity, if you're watching this on video or Spotify. And thank you for being here. I'm so glad you're here. It brings me great joy to pour into you guys. We'll see you next week. Click on the link, get registered, and I'll see you on the other side.